fear. It lurks in the shadows, waiting for you to let your guard down. It slithers through the cracks in the walls, whispering secrets of the damned. You tell yourself monsters aren't real, but what if they are? What if they're watching you right now, hiding just beyond the veil of the unknown? Tonight, we dive into the depths of terror, one horrifying tale of the unexplainable, ghostly whispers in the dead of night, shadows that move when no one's there, the feeling of unseen eyes following your every step. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Turn off the lights if you dare. The night was thick with an oppressive darkness, the kind that swallowed the moonlight whole. 3 friends, Ethan, Laura, and Miles, drove down the winding, cracked road leading into the woods, the headlights barely penetrating the dense fog rolling in from the trees. The car's engine hummed, the only sound in the unnerving quiet that seemed to press in from all sides. The radio signal had cut to static miles ago. No service, no connection to the outside world. Laura drummed her fingers on her knee, her unease growing as the trees loomed taller, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers reaching for them. "It's just a story," she whispered, almost convincing herself. Miles shifted in his seat, staring into the black abyss ahead, the road narrowing as the woods thickened. Ethan gripped the wheel tighter. The silence in the car felt heavier with each passing mile. The deeper they ventured, the quieter the world became. The sound of the tires crunching over gravel seemed unnaturally loud. The occasional snap of a branch in the distance sent a ripple of tension through them. The headlights caught glimpses of shadows shifting between the trees, but it was just their minds playing tricks. It had to be. When they finally parked at the forest's edge, an unnatural stillness settled over the car. Not a single cricket chirped, no rustling of nocturnal creatures, just an oppressive, expectant silence. With flashlights in hand, they stepped into the dense woodland, their breath fogging in the unnaturally cold air. The fog thickened around them, dampening sound and swallowing their voices before they even fully formed, their flashlights slicing through the thick fog that clung to the underbrush like a living thing. The town's urban legend was just that, a legend, or so they had convinced themselves. The Slenderwoman, a faceless specter with elongated limbs and a dress as black as the void, was merely a story told to scare off hikers. Yet, the disappearances lingered in the back of their minds, whispered rumors carried on uneasy winds. The deeper they ventured, the quieter the forest became. Crickets no longer chirped. The rustling of unseen creatures in the undergrowth had ceased. The trees, enormous and gnarled, stood like sentinels in the night, their twisted limbs stretching toward the sky. It was as if the very woods held their breath. Then a sound, low, distant. A deep, resonating thud, like something massive shifting through the trees. The ground trembled ever so slightly beneath their feet. Ethan stopped, flashlight quivering in his grip. Miles scanned the darkness, his breath slow and measured. Laura's pulse pounded against her skull, an invisible weight pressing against her chest. Another thud. Closer this time. The trees groaned, their branches creaking as if pulled by an unseen force. A gust of wind swept through, though there was no breeze. The air had become thick, suffocating, an unseen force closing in around them. Then they saw it. A massive silhouette, impossibly tall, lurked between the trees. Its limbs moved unnaturally, jerking as it stepped forward, its frame too long, too thin. The darkness wrapped around it like a shroud, as though it did not belong to this world. The faceless head tilted slightly, observing, watching. The forest erupted with movement as the friends turned and ran, their feet pounding against the earth. Branches lashed at their skin, undergrowth snagging at their ankles, but the pain was secondary to the sheer, primal terror coursing through them. Another stomp. Closer. The trees shook. The presence behind them felt enormous, its very existence pressing against their lungs. The dilapidated cabin emerged from the trees like a beacon of false salvation. They stumbled through its rotting door, slamming it shut, pressing their backs against the splintering wood. The air inside was stale, thick with decay. A window, barely clinging to its frame, rattled as another tremor shook the ground. Miles peered outside. Nothing. Then, the silence. Not a whisper of wind. Not a single creak of trees. A deep, guttural scraping sound slithered through the still air. Slowly, the cabin's roof groaned as something massive shifted its weight above them. The rafters bowed inward, dust sifting down in thin, whispering streams. Ethan motioned toward a back door, but as they moved, the wall behind them creaked. Long, gnarled fingers, pale and impossibly thin, reached through the gaps in the wooden slats, clawing, searching. Laura let out a strangled gasp, yanking Miles away as the fingers curled inward. The wood splintered and cracked, the entire structure groaning under the weight of something impossibly large. They burst through the back door, the cold night air hitting them like a wave. The woods stretched before them, but the trees no longer felt like shelter. The forest was its domain. A shadow moved, a shape impossibly fast, flowing through the trees like smoke. Then the sound, an inhuman wail, high-pitched and shrill, splitting the air like 1,000 nails on glass. A sound of something not of this earth. They ran. Branches clawed at them, roots rising like hands trying to drag them under. The stomping, the shaking, it was closing in. Miles screamed as a long, thin limb shot from the darkness, yanking him backward with inhuman force. His scream choked off abruptly. Laura barely had time to glance back before Ethan grabbed her wrist, forcing her forward. The tree line was ahead. Salvation, escape. But then the air grew thick again. The oppressive silence returned. Ethan stumbled, his body jerking violently. His grip on Laura loosened. She turned just in time to see him being lifted into the air, his body contorted at impossible angles as the darkness swallowed him whole. The last thing Laura saw before the world went black was a faceless figure standing inches away, impossibly tall, impossibly silent. The forest whispered once more, as if exhaling, and then there was nothing. Silence. Thank you everyone for your continued support on the channel. It is so deeply appreciated, and I greatly enjoy connecting with every one of you. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more eerie tales, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. It really helps out the channel reach more viewers like you. If there are particular stories you want to hear, please let me know in the comments. Until next time, my friends.